welcome to your weekly program, Balahdan, the show that brings good American to your living room. You know, we all seen all these angry Americans and lately, they're demonstrating and shouting against Muslim Islam, and every media bring the worst of the others, and now we need to talk to the Americans who really need to take a hold of this country and try to be very critical of what's going on, and they have different ideas that we see on mainstream media. We have here Dr. Nels. He is a behavioral science. He's been studying history, studying the science of human nature, and he's going to talk and explain to us some of the, it's an interesting book, was written in 2006 by Greg Mortenson. He was hiking somewhere on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan. I might be corrected for that. And somehow he got trapped, and he was saved by some of the tribe there, and they saved his life, lived with him for a while, came back, and from way of paying back, he went back Afghanistan and started building schools. Education was a big part of his redemption there, and he wants to pay back to this culture and those people who saved his life. And now he has 165 different schools. And we're going to talk about the motivation of some people to do such thing, and why the reaction to schools, some people might look at it differently than way actual Greg looks at it. Welcome to Balahdan, Nels. It's very nice of you. I know we met before. We always talk about East and West, the difference, why people do the things they do. You are an expert at it. You've been doing it for so many years. Tell us about, and I'm always fascinated by the people who do this kind of things, go back and build a school in a hostile environment, and that urge, you want to pay back to those people who saved their life. A lot of people will just come home and just get on with their life. So guide us through the mind of Greg and why he's going there, and how this represents what the America is all about, or does it represent certain things in Western thoughts and idea, Christian thoughts, or just a personal endeavor?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to talk about Greg Mortenson. He's a Minnesota lad, as you know, and in fact, he went to the same college as I went to, Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota.
You do?
He comes from a family of Lutheran missionaries in Africa, and his book in 2006, 3 Cups of Tea, and then last year, the second book, Stones into Schools, describes the adventure of this man's life, which would make a terrific movie of a man in very desperate places, succumbing to all kinds of potential dangers and yet surviving them. And I suppose every child who likes adventure stories, cowboy stories, would be thrilled just to read. It
has those elements,
it's
frontiers,
It's exciting. It could read like a novel, but it's a true story.
But it is, as you say, it's non-fictional. And let's talk about the title. I like the title because really it reflects the distinctive or the characteristic of the Afghani culture, and the East too. 3 Cups of Tea, and I know he has this dialogue between his mentor there, Haj Ali, and he was high bar, and he was active, is a good old Minnesota. He wants to get things done quick, and Haj Ali make him sit down and ask him, you need to relax and listen to the people. Tell us about that story.
Well, they're in the process of building the first school, and the equipment has been procured and brought there in a very dramatic way, having to be carried up long mountain roads, and they had to build a river, actually, in order to get into the little village. And in this village, Haj Ali is the #1 citizen, and really a religious and a social and political leader. Well, he one day watches Greg Mortenson struggling with the people, giving direction, trying to create this first school. And Greg Mortenson's style is very Western. Get a lot done fast. Talk fast, work fast. And in a way, you can't blame him because he is under a lot of stress himself, and money-wise, time-wise. So he finds himself one day having been taken by Haj Ali away from the work site up on a hill overlooking the village. And Haj Ali says, "Sit down, Greg, we need to talk." In fact,
keep your mouth shut.
He actually says, "Shut up," in Dari, the Dari language, which is northern Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Greg says this encounter and this sitting down, Haj Ali taught him the most important lesson that he could ever learn. And it's really the theme of the whole book. Learn to listen to others. Don't go in thinking that your culture, your background has all the answers.
Yeah.
And so he learns to listen to a simple peasant person from the mountains of northern Pakistan. Well, Greg has enough native balance in his soul and his upbringing, growing up in Africa in the shadow of Kilimanjaro, which of course gave him his desire to climb mountains. But he has enough common sense with people, as a little child growing up in Africa, to know that other cultures are valid, that his Norwegian, Lutheran background, very similar to my own, and of course it gives me, in reading this kind of a book, an opportunity to see how somebody so similar to myself can be touched in a small community in Afghanistan by an entirely different kind of religion and culture.
It's interesting because he went to help people build a school. And let me follow on that story because I like the title, 3 cups of tea. Hajj Ali tell him, when you come, the first cup of tea, you are a stranger. Second, you are our guest. The third, you are our family.
Yeah,
and that's.
I always, when I teach this class,
Yeah.
I teach you. First time you're a foreigner, the second time you're a friend, and the third time you're a family.
Three.
Yes, yes. Well, and the intimacy grows.
Exactly.
And that's what people need.
And people might take time to know you, but once you are in, you are in. You know, you are into the group circle or family. And I was intrigued by a book. I didn't read it all, but I was intrigued by somebody going to teach people how to be productive and bring education to this miserable place. But he was the most beneficial of all this. He learned more than, an average. Yeah, of course, a student can go to school, learn a few how to read and write, but he learned much bigger lesson than the counterpart.
Well,
that you read it?
The impact on building I think it's about 150 some schools now, and all these children that come, and the impact on his own life and how it affects his community in Bozeman, Montana, and American people who read this, of course, is vast. There are just many directions in which the blessing of both books have taken place. I've listed a couple of things here that, for me, really were pluses. Number one, the books introduced me to a community of Muslims in an intimate way. I almost felt like I was part of that little village there in northern
the details,
Afghanistan,
daily life,
Pakistan, and get a feel of people and how they think and breathe and talk to each other and communicate their family issues. Secondly, the books do a great deal in helping Americans understand the issues in Islam, because Greg Mortenson had a lot of trouble with people who wanted to destroy his work. He was captured by some of the Taliban and imprisoned for 8 days. And these issues that were between northern Pakistan and the Taliban and that were roaming around we know now the mountainous parts, were very much alive for these people. They had to protect their schools. The folks themselves built the schools. Americans didn't build the schools, they did. And the people had to keep protecting the schools night after night as they're being built from Taliban or other forces
theirs now
to destroy them. Yeah. The book also shows American ignorance, because when Greg Mortenson came back to Montana, began writing articles in the paper and was becoming a famous person, he got hate mail from Americans. More danger for Greg Mortenson from American citizens than from people who
live in Afghanistan
in the Islamic faith or live as Muslims. Third thing was that I got to understand some of the dynamics of how when people care about people personally, not because of an ideology, not because Islam tells them to, or Christianity tells them to, or the Torah tells them to, but they just respond to human beings as human beings. To me, that is the real benefit of the book. Then a couple of other things. I think it prepares people and encourages them to trust other people. To me, the key element in our society right now, in this terrible conflict we're having every day we look at the newspaper, is that people lose respect for what they conceive as an enemy. And I think winning hearts and minds idea that came out of the first book and was incorporated by General Petraeus in 2007 gives the average American citizen an understanding of what's going on in our military activity.
He didn't write the book himself. That was written by a journalist that met him there. He was covering the war. Wasn't that the case?
Greg Mortenson, he has a co-author, yes.
Co-author, I see.
Yes, he has a co-author. But it's all directly his experience that's being recorded.
But written by a journalist that is a good read. It's very entertaining. And what I'm saying is, you say, when people meet on a personal level and they trust each other, is it easy to forget ideology and culture and history? Did he represent America? America go there and bomb, destroy a country? Now they are building a school. I mean, how can you separate these two from together? What did he represent?
It helps by the fact that he refused any military or government money. He refused to have any tie
From the United States.
With the United States. It's totally independent.
So it's just a Greg.
It's just him and people who voluntarily give money and time and send contributions to the project. So that's indeed a very important thing, I think, that keeps the movement going and keeps people giving money now to his, it's called Asian Institute, Central Asian Institute. But I think, again, getting back to the personal thing, why did I get so wrapped up in this book? Is because it made a deep impression on me, which in turn has enabled me to see you a year ago in an automobile shop and start talking to you.
That's how we met.
And that's how we met. And for the last year, we've become very good friends, in my opinion.
Same here.
And so, to me, this is the kind of thing that I want people to hear when I preach a sermon on Greg Mortenson. I want people to hear the opportunity that they have from getting this new information, to reach out and get to know somebody on the level of their soul and spirit rather than their identity or their label.
Mundane things, this is a mundane
simple
thing. It's interesting to see the reaction of some of the folks there back in Pakistan and Afghanistan to the school, what represents to them a symbol of America, a symbol of an occupier, whatever they have problem. Of course, when you educate people different in that Western whatever education, you threaten the culture authority of some of the folks because they got their authority of their own ignorance of those things. So it was perceived as a threat.
Very.
Also, the reaction to some of the American folks to the mosque here. In ground zero, so-called ground zero. Is there a similarity there? People who are reacting to a mosque, never been in a mosque, probably never met a Muslim. And I see some similarity there of how we react to our own fear. That's not even out there.
We all act very, very differently. I grew up, you have here in your brochure that our problem
I'm going on
not a clash
a speaking
of
tour now.
It is a clash of fundamentalism. I grew up as a fundamentalist. My father was a fundamentalist. He believed in the verbal inspiration
Literal
of
Bible.
the Old New Testament, the Hebrew and the Christian Bible, just as much as a Muslim believes in the verbality of the Quran, that it's divinely written. Well, one kind of a fundamentalism is not that much different than another fundamentalism. So when I look at myself and how long it's taken me to come away from that view of my religion, reality as such, to become now, as I would call myself, an existential humanist. That's a long trek, a long path. So all I can say is very humbly that I just know very little yet. And that's why I cling to relationships with people like you and whatever I can pick up and learn from the Muslim community. I think what I basically learn and what I try to help other people to the point of being able to separate a Jew from the Torah, separate a follower of Jesus from Christianity, to separate a Muslim from Islamicism.
So the religion from the faithful.
Yeah.
You separate the religion itself, organize
From
the
the dogma,
from
from the fundamentalism, from the idea that there's a greater authority than your own spirit and your own soul. You and I can relate to each other because I really trust you. I trust that you look at my humanity, not my belief system, not whether or not I believe the Quran or not. That's not important. What's important in our relationship is that we've got to the basis that the human person is divine, not a scripture, not a holy book. Now, you know, I probably told you this before and you laughed at me. I said, maybe you and I should listen to what Jones down in Florida says, is get out a big bonfire, and maybe to demonstrate that our faith is not in a book, well, put on several books in that fire.
Yeah.
You see?
Not just the Quran.
And know that our faith in humanity and in goodness and in holiness, dignity,
It's not in a book.
sacredness, it's not in a...
Well, I think that's the attitude of most Muslim reaction to Terry Jones. You know, he's just a book. It's not. It's understanding the book. But what I'm saying is, we're talking about trust our humanity.
Yeah.
But some people believe their humanity is more superior than other. I mean, it's not like one standard humanity. You know, yeah, humanistic society of Germany, if even here when the blacks and slavery, so black humanity is different than white humanity, a German nationalism. And now people can think of America. Now they look at themselves as very special. In America, as a country or American nationalism becomes another religion. That's very un-American. It was not an American. Becomes, if you do anything, criticize anything, as you are an American, you are an patriotic, you are probably unhuman. And then you have the same problem that religious fundamentalists are doing. Secular fundamentalists can make the same mistake.
Well, here's where my studies in human behavior supposedly should help me a lot, and that is that human beings are tribalistic. We're all tribalistic. We are stuck to our earliest
Familiar.
exposures to family, ethnicity, a community. And America's creed is basically that we are all free to relate to each other without any particular tribe or religion having predominance. And hopefully that's what this country can keep on doing. Mm-hmm. And we would like to believe that this society is good for the rest of the world. It shouldn't be forced on the rest of the world at all. Democracy is pretty tenuous in many places in the world and probably wouldn't work. And yet we have to constantly look at the values that we believe is our Holy Scripture, namely the Declaration of Independence.
But you know, the history of this country, deep inside, was built on a religious fundamentalist, a Puritan, this Protestant fundamentalist. And people always resort back to this. Even with all this accomplishment, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and all that, all of a sudden we are back to this tribal Puritan. We're different, we're fundamentalist, we're a Christian nation, and we talk that medieval language.
You're talking about people like Glenn Beck.
Yeah.
Who has
and these people have the narrative. They have the distribution of telling the story.
But this is utter distortion of history. This is not the Founding Fathers. The Founding Fathers were very liberal, progressive kinds of Christians. They were not at all Bible-based in the sense that they take this book as a verbal inspiration from some deity somewhere. I think some other good things are happening, however. I think in this country we've got now literature. We've got some wonderful literature. I just copied down some of the books that I think would be really helpful for people to start as a group. Discussion. You probably are familiar with these three women who wrote The Faith Club. Mm-hmm. A Jewish lady.
Not familiar, but...
Yeah, named Priscilla, and a Protestant named Suzanne, and Rania, a Muslim. And how they move from fear, from all the different symbols in our society and all the words that come across in the media that strike up distrust and mistrust, they learn a respect for each other and a profound reverence for life as the basis of their religion. And we've got all kinds of opportunities. I think Ibo Patel's book, The Acts of Faith, is very, very important. Reza Aslan's book, No God But God. All these can be used in study groups, forums, and opportunities for people to really share the things that strike fear in their hearts, which is the number one cause of the uproar that's going on today.
Some of the issue that Muslim outside of the United States, not Muslim Americans, that they really, I know they seem angry and they always demonstrating burning the American flag, and I don't know, Fox always have this group in the basement, everything, they bring them out, missing tooth and burning the American flag. But deep inside, when you talk to people on the street, average people, taxi driver, a farmer, they tell you, you guys have democracy. You elect your own government. And then your government comes and occupy and have launched crusade against Muslim all over the places. And we don't even hold you responsible for this. I was asking the cab driver, why do you hate America? He said, no, I don't hate America, I hate Bush. So they separate. And the most of Muslim world, all of them, they're oppressive dictatorship regime, run by aggressive dictatorship. They don't elect their own governments. And we still blame the Muslim for the behavior of Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, and the Muslim leader. But that kind of what the Muslim don't understand, why is that the case? Why for the act of the few of those 18 hijack, you can condemn the whole culture, where in fact we did not elect those people. You elected Bush twice, you elected Obama, and he is still launching a war in Afghanistan. So this is also very hard to kind of build a trust that you're talking about.
On your part, yes, because we recognize the imperialism of our past. We recognize that our own history is clouded with all kinds of anti-human activity, whether it be against the American Native Indians or whether against the blacks or against women. Sure, and we're aware of that. Now, I don't know how to alleviate your distrust or your you don't trust when I tell you.
I'm only the messenger.
Yeah.
I'm bringing the message.
Well, yeah, and it's a matter of time, and it's a matter of sharing that we have, whether it's coming to your house and watching a soccer game on TV, or whether it's going golfing with me, and I tell you that your backswing was all fouled up. It's tearing away all the misconceptions we have about the threats other people have over us. Mm-hmm. But you are threatened by terrorism just as much. Yes. You in the last, ever since 9/11.
Even before 9/11, most of terrorist attack was in the Muslim, against Muslim in their own countries. So terrorism did not start on 9/11.
As much as you try to comfort me, I try to comfort you. Mm-hmm. I try to reduce the level of fear and distrust all the time. And if that can be the motto of American citizens, whether they're Muslim or not, that they can relate to each other on this level in which, hey, they enjoy some things, maybe dancing or book clubs or reading or
Muslim
whatever.
don't dance.
Huh?
Muslim don't dance. No, we do.
No, teach you how to sing, fly kites. Come on, they're flying kites in Afghanistan again. They weren't allowed for a long time.
Not next to the green zone. You cannot drive.
No, they're flying kites all over Afghanistan.
But I know the personal level is very important, and it proves itself. I'm yet to see somebody, an American, saying my Muslim neighbor is evil or is, usually they say, I know, my friend is good, but Muslims are bad. My Muslim friend is good. Yeah. So that's all about perception.
Sure, and you are aware how I have been perceiving for years when I read the Quran in English, and I read all kinds of history. I read the Hirsi Ali's books. I read Ibn Warraq's books. To express the other side, I read Milestones of Said Qutb, and I'm filled with all this ideological stuff. And you helped me very much over this past year to drop my ideological understanding of the Quran and my antipathy toward the whole idea of God telling any human being what to do. I want human beings to tell themselves from their own conscience. I think we've learned enough from human behavior to know that we've evolved to a place where we can think through and past our reptilian brain, and we can find a way to acknowledge and accept that we've got enough sense in our brains
do it on our own.
To work and not have an authority. But you see a lot of these people and the right-wingers who are not my friends in this country develop an authoritarian system, whether it be a Beck or a Rash Bimbo or you name them. Sean Hannity, these are people that say we must have the authority of the United States flag behind it.
That's how you should think about Islam and Muslims.
And see, all this is all revolutionary for me. I'm an old man. I should be retired and going fishing every day.
You are retired and you fish every day, so you're doing it. That's not very far from it. But what I'm talking is, I think we had enough stories and knowledge of the danger of religious fundamentalism. But how about the secular fundamentalism? You know, how about Wall Street jihadists? How about the corporate Taliban? Those are the people who are actually threatening this country, threatening the well-being of millions of people. More people commit suicide from economic and social reasons than religious reasons. So that's not enough talk. I mean, you see a lot of debate, a lot of things about religion, Islam in this country, and other religion, but we don't see enough debate about the structure of the capitalist system that is come to the point where it's almost becoming a more fundamentalist than Taliban's.
That's why I listen to you. I am very ignorant about world events compared to you. You've lived in Egypt. You've been around the world. The closest I ever come is sailing in the Greek islands as a sailboat, enjoying myself and hearing Turkish music.
That's the best.
Yeah.
The best of the two worlds.
But you've been around, and that's why I trust your understanding of
I'm just humbling,
events.
giving you a view of that how the other look at this. But I think we're making the mistake that if we all our problem gonna solve if we just wipe off religion and the history, because
no, they can't do that.
They can't do that, and people look at the Quran differently. And the hijackers use the Quran to do horrible things. But Algeria used the Quran to liberate themselves from the French.
Yes.
I mean, Quran has to be interpreted somehow.
Yeah.
So people have to look at it. I look at the Quran different than my friends or even my other Muslim brothers.
Gabriel should have been much more explicit, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
When he handed down these words.
Well, then
just like Yahweh or the New Testament writers in the Gospel.
Maybe
writers.
they should come back
Yeah.
and have a divine press conference. Well, thank you so much, Nels.
It's been fun again as usual. See you for golf tomorrow.
Here is Nels, so we'll golf with him, Christian and Muslim, American together. Trust is everything, and we'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum, and God bless you all.
لو جيت في يوم ارسمك ارسم امل بسام وللرسام